Welcome back, Wealth Builders. Michael Rosmer here with Richucation. We are talking today about the subject of valuation. Okay, so value or valuation? Valuation versus what we call development costs. Okay, and this is going to lead a little bit to some of the price stability that we get. Okay, price stability or instability. Okay, so this is going to help us understand a little bit about depreciation. Okay, very, very important to understand this point. Okay, so this is most easily understood. We're going to talk in terms of houses, and then we'll talk about IP to contrast the two. Okay, if you have a house, development cost is like your construction cost. What would it cost me to build this thing from scratch? Okay, and loosely speaking, what you should find is that development cost pairs fairly nicely with valuation. Okay, so in other words, if I can build something for substantially less than its value, then I'm going to be building it, so my value is probably going to drop, right? If, on the other hand, it's going to cost a lot more to build it, then the value is going to go up, right? That's just kind of natural. And what this means for houses is that, of course, a house has a bit of a depreciation, and this is partially because it's getting older, right? Like people would rather live in a newer house. If your furnace is 20 years old versus brand new, it's worth less. So the development, even though the development cost, typically the development cost should be slightly higher, and you'll see this if you look at your, say, your house insurance, you'll see that the replacement cost to rebuild your house is probably greater than what it costs, than what your valuation of the house without the land is, right? And the reason for that is because it's newer, so it's better, right? You've got newer technology, it's just more, like more recently furbished, etc. So usually development costs should be slightly, or construction costs are going to be slightly higher than the valuation that you're getting because of that distinction, okay? Now let's look at, and usually construction costs are kind of going up with inflation, more or less, right? Which partially explains how come housing tends to have a price stability about with inflation, okay? We're going to talk later about where housing costs come from and, where we get out of that inflation and things like this, right? But for now, loosely we get that tracking, okay? We're not usually going to have housing for substantially lower than inflation, because of this key, right? If development costs are so much higher, then it's going to drive it down. And this, by the way, also is going to drive, you can see this driving in the market, right? Which is really cool. It's like, well, actually we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it'll just tell you about whether there's going to be home building or not, basically, okay? Which is going to change the supply, which is going to change the demand, right? Okay, let's look at another example. Let's look at intellectual property. You develop some new iPhone thing, right? Like something very high tech, some software, whatever, okay? You say, well, what's it valued at? Over time, the value of it's probably going to plummet. It's probably going to depreciate really fast. Why? To quote Bill Gates, intellectual property has the shelf life of a banana. And the idea is just, as everyone else is developing newer and better technology, the value of reproducing what you have, or the cost to reproduce it, as the information gets out there, these breakthroughs are in place, there's other software platforms to build on, make development easier, there's proven models that people can copy, etc. It's just easier to replicate what somebody else did, which is why fast followers are often in a better position than first movers, contrary to what some awful books have to say, okay? I don't know whether they're awful books, but it's awful advice, okay? So this is the key, is to understand how are development costs for this product going to work. When we're trying to figure out, okay, what's the underlying asset depreciation going to look like? Part of it is, okay, what would it cost for us to reproduce it? And then what's the differential going to be between the reproduced version and the new, or the old version and the new version, right? And that's going to give us a little bit of our insight here. So if technology is accelerating very quickly, you're going to see a depreciation very quickly, because it's easy to reproduce, or reproduce for the same price, something substantially better, okay? That just gives you a little bit of idea, again, to understanding, like, what we're doing is we're doing windows and insights into, okay, how do we figure out what something's worth? And more importantly, it's going to be how much do we figure out what it's going to be worth in the future so we can make great long-term investments. Hope that helps. You guys want some support? Reach out to us, join the action classes. We're here for you, and we will see you on the next video.